The next few days passed with a quiet, steady rhythm. Not rushed, not heavy, just steady. The group returned to the studio each afternoon. Some days were full of movement. Other days were slower, spent talking through moments, gestures, intentions. No one forced progress. They allowed it to form. One morning, Scarlett arrived early. The studio windows were open just enough to let in the soft morning air. Sunlight stretched across the wooden floor in long pale lines. In the quiet, Scarlett laid her notebook on the floor and sat cross-legged beside it. She didn't write at first. She just breathed. There was a time in her life when mornings felt like a race. A rush to prove something, to catch up, to defend, to stay afloat. Now, there was space. Quiet. A pace she chose herself. Her hand moved slowly, writing one sentence at the top of the page. A performance is not a display. It is a moment shared. She smiled lightly. This project was never about perfection. It was about presence. A soft knock came at the door. When Scarlett opened it, May stood there holding 2 cups of warm tea. "I thought maybe you would like one," May said. Scarlett blinked, touched by the simplicity of it. "Thank you," she said softly. They sat on the floor, quietly sipping. There was no need for conversation. The silence was not empty. It was warm. Finally, May spoke, voice gentle. "I used to think that if I wasn't extraordinary, then there was no place for me." Scarlett looked at her, not surprised, just understanding. May continued, eyes on the sunlight. "But here, we don't try to prove anything. We just show up, and I didn't realize how much that matters." Scarlett's voice matched the softness of the room. "You don't have to perform your worth. You already have it." May's eyes welled, not with sadness, but recognition. She nodded once. That was enough. Amina arrived next. She carried a notebook of her own now, not filled with words, but with graceful sketches of motion pathways. She placed it on the floor and sat with them. "I didn't know I was allowed to create," she said. "You always were," Scarlett replied. "You just needed a space where it was welcome." Amina smiled, a small, warm smile that felt like sunrise stretching over calm waters. In time, Daniel arrived with his neat folder of notes. Then Courtney with soft cloth swatches tucked into her tote. Then Caleb, steady as ever, holding the quiet of the room the moment he stepped inside. The group formed without being called to order. They simply found each other in the space. When they stood, they moved into their positions naturally. No one told them where to go. Their bodies remembered. Scarlett observed, not correcting, not steering, just seeing the way they had begun to trust themselves and each other. They began the slow sequence. No music yet, just breath. Step, turn, pause, gesture, close. Scarlett watched the shape of their movement, the way one breath led into another, the way one step created space for the next. Each dancer held their own presence, but it wasn't separate. They moved together, not identical, not synchronized, connected. Amina's steps flowed, unhurried. May's arms lifted softly, as though lifting light itself. Daniel pivoted with ease. Courtney's movements were smaller, but deeply felt. Caleb's presence grounded the circle. Scarlett stepped quietly into the center. She did not lead. She joined. The circle breathed. Just one shared moment. And that was enough. After practice, they sat together near the mirrored wall, cooling down on the polished floor. Courtney spread her fabrics before them. Soft neutral tones, gentle earth shades, calm blues, muted greens. "These colors feel like this group," she said simply. Everyone nodded. She didn't need to explain. The fabrics didn't shout. They didn't impress. They just belonged. Amina gently traced one fabric's texture with her fingertips. May leaned her head softly against her knee, relaxed. Daniel stretched his back, comfortable. Caleb rested his hand lightly on the floor behind him, posture calm. Scarlett looked at each of them. There was no tension, no hurry, no expectation, only presence. When rehearsal ended, they walked out together into the quiet afternoon. The air outside was cool, carrying a faint scent of early flowers beginning to bloom. The sky was soft blue, wide and unhurried. Amina and Courtney walked slightly ahead, talking quietly about costume stitching. May walked beside Daniel, asking about stage lighting patterns. Scarlett and Caleb walked last. Not close, not far, just near enough to share the same quiet. Scarlett looked ahead at the group. "They're settling," she said. Caleb nodded. "They trust the space now." Scarlett took a thoughtful breath. "That was all we ever needed." Caleb glanced at her, not searching, just seeing. "You're doing well," he said, simple, sincere. Scarlett didn't look away. Neither did she smile too brightly. Just a small, soft acknowledgement. "Thank you." They continued walking. No rush, no intensity, just a calm path shared side by side. The days ahead would bring the final shaping, the final layers, the final quiet steps before the lights rise. But for now, they had today, and that was enough. The week unfolded with an ease that felt almost deliberate. Each day began with soft light spilling through the studio windows, catching the edges of polished wood and scattered rehearsal notes. The gentle hum of the city beyond the glass seemed distant, muted, as though the building itself were a quiet bubble shielding those inside from the hurry of the outside world. Scarlett arrived first, as usual, carrying her notebook and a small thermos of tea. She placed them gently on the floor near the center of the studio, letting the faint aroma of chamomile drift in the air. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, inhaling the calm, steadying rhythm of the morning. No one else was there yet. Not Daniel, not Amina, not May, not Courtney, not Caleb. And this quiet was a gift. It gave her space to prepare, to think not about what needed to be done, but about how it should feel. The day was about formation. Not perfection, not speed, not sharpness, but about each dancer finding their own presence, understanding how their movements intertwined with those around them, and allowing the story to grow organically. The first to arrive was Amina, carrying her small notebook of sketches. Her hair was loosely tied back, a few strands falling softly around her face. She offered Scarlett a warm smile as she set her notebook down on the floor. "I sketched some adjustment for the middle section," she said softly. "It might help with the flow when we move together." Scarlett nodded, appreciating the gentle initiative. "That sounds perfect. Let's see how it works." Amina smiled again, a small, sunlit curve of her lips, and began unpacking her sketches, spreading them carefully so that the edges didn't overlap. Next came Courtney, carrying fabric swatches in a neat bundle. She laid them next to Amina's sketches, arranging the colors in soft gradients. Warm creams to pale peach, muted greens to soft gold. She had taken care to ensure the fabrics matched the emotional tone Scarlett had suggested. Calm, thoughtful, and luminous. "These will catch the light beautifully on stage," Courtney said, her voice quiet, but steady with certainty. Scarlett stepped closer, letting her fingertips brush against the soft material. "They do," she said. "They're gentle, but present. Exactly what this story needs." Courtney smiled faintly, a little more assured, feeling recognized not just for her choices, but for her understanding of the group's vision. Daniel arrived next, carrying his folder of rehearsal notes. He had been monitoring spacing and transitions carefully, noting where the dancers needed subtle adjustments. Today, however, he left his meticulous annotations aside and walked into the space as if entering sanctuary. "Formation practice," he said simply. "No corrections unless they're necessary. We just need to see how the flow holds naturally." Caleb arrived last, calm as ever. He did not announce himself. He simply stepped into the studio and observed the room with a quiet presence. He did not need to lead. He was an anchor, steady and reassuring without drawing attention. Scarlett looked at him, acknowledging him with a small nod. No words were needed. He understood. The group began with the opening section. Scarlett asked them to walk slowly into formation, spacing themselves intuitively rather than by rigid markers. No music, no mirrors, just movement and breath. Step by step, the dancers found their place. The space seemed to expand around them, breathing with each gentle gesture. Amina's movements were light, flowing like water. May's gestures were grounded, deliberate but soft. Courtney's positioning carried a quiet warmth. as though each step was an offering to the others. Daniel's movements were precise but unhurried. Caleb watched from the side, ensuring the energy of the group remained steady and balanced. Scarlett walked slowly among them, observing, not correcting, not guiding, simply seeing the harmony forming naturally. After several gentle repetitions, Scarlett asked them to pause in formation. They froze in place, arms and legs held not rigidly, but with a soft awareness of balance and space. This moment, Scarlett said quietly, is about noticing. Notice how the space feels. Notice the energy moving between each of you. You are not separate. Each movement belongs to everyone, just as every breath belongs to the group. The dancers exhaled, letting the words settle. Amina tilted her head, studying May's steps. Courtney's gaze softened, meeting Daniel's, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. May's shoulders relaxed. Daniel's eyes shifted from calculation to awareness. Caleb's steady presence reinforced the calm energy in the room. Scarlett stepped back to the center. Now we'll try a slow run-through. Not fast, not perfect, just the form and connection. The first run-through moved like a river. No one was rushed. No one was stiff. Every gesture carried intention. Every step held meaning. Every breath connected them. Amina's fluidity met Courtney's grounded warmth. May's deliberate motion complemented Daniel's precise awareness. Scarlett observed, satisfied, allowing Caleb's quiet energy to balance the room. The formation was not yet perfect. It did not need to be. The moment itself was alive. It was unfolding naturally, and in its unfolding, the story began to emerge. After the run-through, the group sat on the floor in a circle, quietly catching their breath. Scarlett looked around. This is what growth feels like. Not a sudden transformation, but a gentle unfolding. Amina sipped her tea, quiet. I never thought the stage could feel like this, like it's safe, like it's ours. Courtney added softly, it's not about impressing anyone. It's about being here, fully. May nodded, and feeling it, really feeling it. Daniel smiled faintly, a small, thoughtful curve of his lips. I can see the formation now, not as steps or numbers, but as something alive. Caleb's calm gaze swept across the group. The stage is not intimidating. It's welcoming. You've made it so. Scarlett breathed softly, and we are only beginning. Each day, each moment, we build this together. The dancers absorbed the words, letting them sink without pressure. No one needed to say more. The quiet was enough. The presence was enough. As the evening sun began to filter through the windows, the studio glowed with soft amber light. Shadows stretched and blended gently across the floor. The dancers began to gather their belongings, moving with the same calm rhythm that had defined the day. Scarlett remained near the center, watching. The story was forming, not through force, not through perfection, but through gentle intention, patience, and shared trust. And in that quiet, luminous space, it felt as if the first real steps toward their future performance were already complete. Not the final steps, not the grand ones, but the quiet, steady, meaningful ones that mattered most. The morning light arrived quietly, spilling through the tall studio windows and catching in the soft curves of the polished wooden floor. Scarlett arrived first, as was her habit, carrying her notebook, a pencil tucked behind her ear, and a thermos of herbal tea. She set them down gently, pausing for a moment to inhale the calm scent of the morning, tea, wood, and faint traces of paint from the costumes hanging nearby. The week had brought a gentle rhythm to their rehearsals. There was no rush, no tension, no pressure to perform. The days were filled with deliberate movements, thoughtful pauses, and quiet observation. Today, Scarlett decided, would focus on lighting and presence. Amina arrived shortly after, her soft notebook in hand. I sketched a few adjustments for the middle sequence, she said quietly, placing the papers on the floor. Just ideas for how we can move more fluidly into the next formation. Scarlett nodded, smiling. Perfect. Let's see how they work with the space today. Courtney arrived next, carrying fabric swatches folded neatly in her tote. She arranged the fabrics along the floor, letting the colors, gentle creams, soft greens, muted blues, catch the morning light. Scarlett noticed the way the fabrics seemed to glow softly, reflecting the calm tone of their practice. "These are beautiful," Scarlett said. "The colors feel right. They feel like the story we're telling." Courtney smiled faintly, her hands brushing over the fabric. "I wanted them to feel natural, like they belonged to the stage and the performers, not just the audience." Daniel arrived soon after, carrying his folder of notes. He didn't speak at first, just nodded to Scarlett, observing the space and the arrangement of dancers and props. Caleb arrived last, calm as always, holding the quiet weight of presence that seemed to settle the room as soon as he stepped inside. Scarlett stepped to the center of the studio. "Today, we'll focus on how the light interacts with our movements," she explained. "Not brightness, not perfection, but presence. Let your gestures be informed by awareness of the space, the light, and each other." The dancers spread out across the floor. There was no music yet, no mirrors to reflect their movements, only the subtle glow of the morning light filtering through the windows. Step by step, the dancers moved slowly. Amina's motions flowed like water, smooth and continuous. May's gestures were steady, deliberate, carrying a quiet weight. Courtney's movements were small but intentional, guiding the eye naturally. Daniel's transitions were subtle, precise, yet unhurried. Caleb walked softly around the perimeter, ensuring that the energy in the room remained balanced. Scarlett observed quietly, taking notes, but not correcting, just seeing. After several slow repetitions, Scarlett asked them to pause in formation. The dancers froze in place, each breathing quietly, noticing the light and space around them. "This is not about perfection," Scarlett said softly. "It's about awareness. Notice how your movements interact with the light, how the energy flows between you. Feel it, own it, let it guide you." The dancers absorbed her words. Amina's shoulders relaxed. Courtney's gaze softened. May's hands hovered gently in the air. Daniel exhaled slowly, letting the precision of his movements soften. Caleb's calm presence anchored the group, grounding them in the moment. Scarlett stepped into the center, taking a deep breath. She didn't move with authority. She moved with intention, allowing her presence to weave with theirs. The circle breathed together, a subtle, unified rhythm forming across the space. When the first gentle run-through began, it was almost hypnotic. No music, no audience, only movement, light, and breath. Amina's flowing gestures met Courtney's grounded warmth. May's deliberate motions complemented Daniel's precise transitions. Scarlett moved quietly in the center, uniting the shapes, the rhythm, and the energy. Caleb watched from the side, observing the flow, noting the connections forming organically. The stage was no longer just a space. It had become a living entity, responding to each subtle gesture. After the run-through, the group sat on the floor, forming a loose circle. Sweat glistened faintly on their skin, but there was no exhaustion, only the calm satisfaction of presence and shared understanding. Scarlett took a sip of her tea. "The light shows us more than shapes," she said softly. "It reveals connection. Movement alone isn't enough. Presence is what carries the story." Amina nodded. "It feels different than before. Not just about steps, but about being here fully." Courtney's gaze softened. "I think I understand now. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about being true to the space and to ourselves." May smiled gently, and noticing each other. "Every movement matters because we're moving together." Daniel added, "It feels alive, like it's not just rehearsal anymore, but something we're building." Caleb nodded quietly. "And that is the essence of trust, trust in yourself and in the others around you." Scarlett allowed the words to settle. The room was quiet, filled with soft breathing and the gentle glow of the morning light. No one spoke for a few moments. The silence was comfortable, almost sacred. As the sun climbed higher, spilling brighter light across the floor, Scarlett guided the group in a series of slow stretches and grounding exercises. The dancers moved with the same calm, deliberate awareness as before, but now the space felt even more like their own. The fabrics, the sketches, the light, all of it came together in subtle harmony. Finally, as rehearsal came to a close, Scarlett gathered her notebook. "The stage is not just a place to perform," she said softly. "It is a space for growth, connection, and presence. Each day, we take one step closer, not toward perfection, but toward understanding. That is the real work, and it is beautiful." The dancers gathered their belongings and left the studio, walking slowly together into the early afternoon light. Each step was unhurried, deliberate, and full of quiet purpose. Scarlett remained for a moment, looking back at the studio, the polished floor, the soft fabrics, the sketches, and the empty space now holding the memory of movement. She breathed deeply, feeling the calm energy linger around her. Yes, the performance would come, but for now, they had the present. They had each other, and in that gentle, luminous space, they had everything that mattered. The morning arrived wrapped in a soft haze, the kind of light that made the city appear as though it were breathing slowly, thoughtfully, before the day fully began. Scarlett arrived at the studio just as the sun broke through the pale clouds, carrying her notebook, a small bundle of sketches, and a thermos of chamomile tea. The air smelled faintly of rain from the night before, the subtle dampness mingling with the soft warmth of sunlight spilling through the tall windows. The studio was empty and quiet, save for the echo of her own footsteps. Scarlett set down her items and stood in the center of the space for a long moment, taking in the polished floor, the scattered fabric swatches, and the gentle glow of light. She let herself breathe in the calm, feeling the energy of the room already beginning to settle into a rhythm. Today's focus, she thought, would be subtlety, not the grand gestures of movement, not the dramatic flourishes that drew attention, but the gentle language of gesture, of breath, and of quiet presence. Amina arrived first, holding her sketches lightly in her hands. Her hair, loose and untamed, framed her face softly, catching the sunlight as she moved. She laid her sketches on the floor with care, spreading them gently so that each line and shape could be seen without overlap. "I thought we could experiment with slight variations today," she said, her voice soft, almost reverent, "just to see how small adjustments and movement can change the flow." Scarlett nodded appreciatively. "That's perfect, Amina. Sometimes it's the smallest changes that create the most depth." Courtney followed, carrying her fabric swatches in a tidy bundle. She arranged them near Amina's sketches, creating a subtle gradient of soft creams, muted blues, and gentle greens. The fabrics caught the morning light and reflected it softly across the studio floor, giving the room a quiet warmth. "These colors feel like they're breathing with the room," Scarlett observed. "They feel calm, grounded, and alive in their own way." Courtney smiled faintly. "That's exactly what I was hoping for. I want them to complement the dancers, not overshadow them." Daniel arrived next, carrying his folder of rehearsal notes. Unlike other days, he did not immediately check his annotations. Instead, he moved to the edge of the room, observing the space, the light, and the soft fabrics. His posture was relaxed, his attention careful but unforced. Caleb arrived last, calm and composed, carrying the same steady presence that seemed to anchor the room. He nodded briefly to Scarlett, then stood at a corner, letting the energy of the space settle around him without commanding it. Scarlett took a deep breath, centering herself. "Today we'll focus on the subtle bloom of our performance, the moments that don't shout but still carry weight. Think of your gestures as threads connecting the space, each one creating a gentle ripple through the room." The dancers began moving slowly, intuitively, without music. Amina's steps were fluid, gliding like a soft current, each motion barely disturbing the air, but carrying a sense of quiet energy. May's movements were deliberate yet light, like petals unfolding slowly in the sun. Courtney's gestures were small but intentional, creating lines and curves that interacted with Amina and May seamlessly. Daniel's motions were precise, but softened, allowing the room and the other dancers to lead as much as he did. Caleb moved at the perimeter, a quiet anchor, ensuring the energy of the room remained balanced and harmonious. Scarlett moved among them with her own gentle rhythm, observing, absorbing, and occasionally joining with a small, measured gesture. She did not lead. She simply existed in the space, letting her presence ripple naturally through the group. After several slow repetitions, Scarlett asked them to pause in their positions, eyes closed if they wished. "This is the bloom," she said softly. "Notice the light moving across the space. Notice the energy flowing between you. Every movement, no matter how small, carries intention. Each breath, each pause matters." Amina tilted her head, eyes closed, feeling the subtle connection between her motion and the light. Courtney let her hands hover gently in the air, following the rhythm of the room. May's chest rose and fell with calm breath, steadying the flow. Daniel exhaled slowly, letting precision soften into awareness. Caleb's presence radiated outward, giving a sense of safety and calm. Scarlett watched, heart quiet but full. This was the moment they had been building toward. Not the stage, not the audience, but the shared understanding of space, movement, and intention. After the pause, Scarlett guided the group through a gentle run-through of the opening sequence, focusing on micro-movements rather than large gestures. The dancers moved with exquisite subtlety, the space around them alive with quiet energy. No music, no mirrors, only movement, light, and breath. Amina's gestures flowed seamlessly into Courtney's. May's deliberate motion complemented Daniel's softened transitions. Scarlett's presence in the center tied everything together without dominating the space. Caleb observed silently, his calm attention reinforcing the room's gentle energy. The studio felt alive, not loud, not dramatic, but full of a quiet, glowing presence. The story of the performance was no longer just imagined. It was forming naturally, gently, thread by thread. When the run-through ended, the dancers collapsed softly onto the floor, forming a loose circle. Sweat dotted their foreheads, but the exhaustion was replaced by a calm satisfaction. Scarlett sipped her tea quietly, letting the warmth settle. Every performance, no matter how grand, begins with subtlety, she said softly. Moments that feel small can carry the deepest meaning. Amina nodded. "I never realized how much strength there is in gentleness." Courtney added, "And in noticing. Each small movement matters because it connects us." May's soft smile reflected her understanding. "It's not about impressing anyone. It's about being fully present." Daniel exhaled slowly. "I can feel the story now, not in steps, but in awareness." Caleb's calm gaze swept across the group. "The stage is not intimidating. It is welcoming. You have created that space yourselves." Scarlett allowed a small smile, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the room. "And we are only beginning. The bloom continues, slowly, deliberately, beautifully." As the group gathered their belongings and left the studio, Scarlett lingered. She looked at the empty space, noting the faint impressions of movement left behind in the floor and in the air. The fabrics glimmered in the late morning sun. The sketches lay quietly on the floor. She breathed deeply, feeling the lingering calm energy of the space. The bloom was gentle but undeniable. The performance was still far off, but they had begun to cultivate the essence of it. Step by step, gesture by gesture, thread by thread, the story was weaving itself into life. And Scarlett knew, quietly but surely, that the days ahead would only deepen it. The morning air was soft and golden as Scarlett approached the studio, her steps light and deliberate. The city outside was waking, but inside the rehearsal space, there was a serene hush, the kind of quiet that allowed thought and intention to settle like dust in sunlight. She carried her notebook, a small bundle of pencils, and a thermos of herbal tea, setting them carefully near the center of the polished floor. Today was about rhythm. Not the loud, obvious beat of music or the exaggerated gestures of performance, but the quiet rhythm that connected movement, breath, and presence. Scarlett had spent the past weeks cultivating awareness and subtlety in the group. Now, it was time to weave their internal rhythms into something tangible. Amina arrived first, her sketchbook clutched gently in her hands. She spread out her notes on the floor, showing subtle adjustments for the flow of movements, small details that could create a more seamless connection between gestures. These little shifts, she said softly, might make the transitions feel like a natural pulse rather than isolated moments. Scarlett nodded, her eyes soft but focused. Exactly. Rhythm is not always heard. It is felt. These adjustments will help the group feel it, rather than just see it. Courtney arrived next, carrying fabric swatches arranged with care. The soft creams and muted greens reflected the morning sunlight, creating a delicate glow across the studio. She placed the swatches alongside Amina's sketches. These fabrics, Scarlett said, touching the soft folds, catch the light in a way that enhances the movement. It's subtle, but it matters. It supports the rhythm rather than competing with it. Courtney smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting satisfaction. I wanted it to feel natural, as if the space itself is moving with them. Daniel entered with his usual quiet focus, carrying his folder of notes. Today, he walked to the edge of the studio and observed without interruption, letting the room settle around him. His presence, calm but attentive, reinforced the gentle energy Scarlett sought to cultivate. Caleb arrived last, steady and composed as ever. He stood at a corner of the room, his gaze sweeping across the space, grounding it without speaking. Scarlett acknowledged him with a subtle nod. No further introduction was necessary. Scarlett guided the group to the center, her voice calm and intentional. Today we will explore rhythm, not in beats or music, but in movement itself. Each gesture has its own pulse, its own cadence. Notice it, feel it, let it connect you to the space and to each other. The dancers spread out slowly, moving with measured care. Amina's motions flowed in gentle arcs, each step a pulse of water through air. May's gestures were deliberate, each transition weighted yet unhurried. Courtney's positioning created small curves that naturally linked with the others' movements. Daniel's precise transitions softened, allowing the rhythm of the group to guide him. Caleb observed from the edge, a steady anchor for the quiet energy of the studio. Scarlett moved among them, a subtle current of motion, allowing her presence to weave the rhythm into the group without overt control. After several repetitions, Scarlett asked them to pause in formation. Close your eyes if you wish, she suggested. Feel the rhythm. Not in music, not in steps, but in breath, in space, in connection. Let the pulse of the room guide you. The dancers inhaled slowly. Amina's chest rose and fell in perfect sync with the space. Courtney let her hands float gently, sensing the subtle tempo of the collective movement. May's shoulders relaxed, aligning with the natural cadence of the room. Daniel exhaled, letting his precision merge into fluidity. Caleb's calm presence radiated outward, stabilizing the energy for all. Scarlett watched quietly, noting the unity forming, not in choreography alone, but in awareness and presence. They moved into a slow run-through of the opening sequence, the rhythm guiding each gesture. No mirrors, no music, only breath, awareness, and gentle movement. Amina's fluid arcs merged with Courtney's warm, grounded steps. May's deliberate motions complemented Daniel's softened transitions. Scarlett's presence in the center threaded the rhythm through every dancer. Caleb observed silently, steadying the pulse of the room without intruding. The space itself seemed alive, breathing with the subtle cadence of their movement. Each pause, each step, each gesture felt intentional, forming a quiet narrative of connection. After the run-through, the dancers gathered in a loose circle on the floor, catching their breath in calm unison. Scarlett sipped her tea, letting the warmth settle. Rhythm is not always seen, she said softly. It is felt. It is the invisible current that links everything, the space, the movement, the performers. Without it, everything feels disjointed. With it, even silence becomes meaningful. Amina nodded, a small smile touching her lips. I can feel it now, not just see it. The space is alive with it. Courtney added softly, and each of us contributes, even in the smallest gestures. Every movement matters because it carries the rhythm forward. May's expression softened. It's not about being noticed. It's about being in harmony. Daniel exhaled slowly. I can feel the rhythm inside, rather than just in steps. It connects everything. Caleb's calm gaze swept across the group. You have made the space welcoming. You have made it alive. That is the power of awareness and rhythm. Scarlett allowed herself a small smile, the quiet pride of the day settling in. And we are only beginning. Each day, each movement, each pause adds to the rhythm we are cultivating. It grows naturally, quietly, beautifully. As the dancers left the studio, the soft sunlight reflecting off the polished floors, Scarlett lingered for a moment. The space was quiet, yet vibrant with the residual energy of connection and presence. She breathed deeply, feeling the pulse of the room echoing gently through her. The performance was still far away, but the rhythm, the invisible heartbeat of their story, was alive. Step by step, gesture by gesture, breath by breath, the story was quietly weaving itself into life. And Scarlett knew, with calm certainty, that each day would deepen it, thread by thread, until the bloom was complete.